Greetings, hope all is well. I want to take a little bit of time just to go over how I made Finn here. Finn's one of my characters I recently did that I used different techniques on to actually stiffen him up here and to give him some character. I used Mod Podge and show you how, and a couple other tricks here. And this is actually stiffened up. I'm using the fabric, but I'm soaking it in the Mod Podge and giving some spiral effects. So I'm taking different hats, making different things out of them right now. This was actually made using some burlap and using some different type of materials too to put together. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Before I get started and get messy here, also show you, I get questions about what I use for the white snow. This is called glitter snow, and it comes in, you can get 4 ounces, 6 ounces, 8 ounces, all different size bottles. Just ordered it off of Amazon. It does stay white. That's why I like it. It's not like a yellowing. And it works real well with those winter scene projects and everything. And just great, and it just paints on. So you can paint it right on there, add some character. Also, you can add just a little bit of more sparkle to it too. So that's what I've done, just to give you an idea of what I've got on there. Now with the Mod Podge, I did his hat first, and then after I built the gnome, I actually did into the beard, put it on there, and the coat, as I said. So I have a very stiff, hard gnome here. I've also been working on another character. This guy is going to come out here in a little while here. He's got a lot more work to go. This is for another one of my stories that I have going on right now. More of an adventure story, which is going to be fun, and it's going to be a little bit longer too. So it may eventually get into a book too on that. But this is actually burlap, and I took strips of burlap and put them through the Mod Podge, and I put it through the styrofoam cones. He's actually wrapped around the cone there. So that's another option there, using the same method. His beard, I'm using Mod Podge on that too to hold it down. He's gonna have a lot more character when I'm done to him. Just a lot of fun, but just give you some ideas. Again, a good solid base to him here. I'll show later on too, after I get them all made and everything, a little bit of tricks to it too. I'm actually using the floral wires put through him to make my arms there, and just strips of the burlap. Burlap is pretty cheap. It's usually about $4 a yard. If you have the coupons for Joann's or Hobby Lobby or anything, you can usually get it for about $2 a yard. So a little extra there. So I'm going to show you, as I said, how I've done put some character into it. So if you are making a hat, and I get a lot of people ask, how do you make the spirals? How do you make the turns? A lot of people use the floral wires, which are great. If you're keeping more of a soft look to it, this is more of a hard statue, I could say, with that. So let me put Finn aside here, up here with my other characters. And as I said, I'm using Mod Podge. You can get it almost any craft place at all different sizes. You can also get same company I get the glitter snow from, Lena's. They make a fabric stiffener. Same thing. Going to cost you about $8 or $9 for either one of them. 16 ounces. You can also get this is from our favorite Dollar Tree. You get a 2-ounce bottle for $1. So actually, the cheapest way to go is to do with the Dollar Tree. If you're getting the 2-ounce bottles, if you're not doing a lot of this, to start out with that, because you're going to use about 2 ounces in this project here. Other projects I'm going to be using more, so I need the larger size, but figure you're going to be spending about $8, $9. Again, if you have the coupons, you can pick them up at any of the stores, any sizes. So it's not anything that's going to be any big expense to do with that. I take my hat. I like to, this is actually a sweater I recently bought from the Goodwill store. And I like to get a lot of my stuff there because there's a lot of character to them. But you can also use regular fabrics, and you can use socks too, but I would use a longer sock. I've cut out my hat. I've turned it inside out. Now, when I'm using my pattern or even a sock pattern, I'm cutting about 4.5 inches across the bottom there. Of course, I've done my tilt too, so I have it going up, but 4.5 inches across there fits on my gnomes nicely. Now, typically I do like an 8 to 9 inches going up the side. On this, I'm gonna do 12 to 13 inches just because when I'm putting that twist and spiral in there, when I'm doing different things, it's taking up some of the material. It's making it a bit smaller there. So that's why I'm gonna actually stretch this out to about 12 to 13 inches. There's no exact that it has to be, but most of mine come out just around 12 inches when I'm just cutting that straight up there. And again, I like to do things where I hand sew them, but can easily be done, same thing, by using your hot glue. All you need to do now is just run the hot glue down the side, put it together, and just as simple as that, you're gonna have your hat. Again, I sewed mine and turned it, and then turned it inside out. So, just as simple as that, I have a hat. Now comes the Mod Podge part of it. This is the part where you get your hands dirty. That's why I tried to give you a little bit of information ahead of time instead of at the end like I normally do. I use about 2/3 cup of water. Again, it doesn't have to be exact, but I'm using about 2/3 cup of water to about 2 ounces of the Mod Podge. And again, we're not trying to be perfect. Put my Mod Podge in there. I have tried with the other glues, like the Elmer's glue, just the clear drying glue. You don't get quite the stiffness that you get out of using a fabric stiffener or the Mod Podge. It does give you a harder, nice hard stiffness to it, almost like it'll stay just like that, very solid. So that's why I recommend the Mod Podge or the fabric stiffener for this. Now, a couple things too, I want to mention this, especially for the guys. Make sure you have your table covered. I use wax paper or parchment. You're going to need to have something to put it on. And I know this shouldn't need to be said, but at times it does. Don't use your regular everyday dishes or breakfast bowls. I've learned from experience. I can't tell you who did it, but somebody's done it. Used a breakfast bowl, and for the first reason, don't do that. Not going to make the rest of the family happy about eating out of it after that. The other thing is, don't accidentally, if you do that, leave it sitting in there for 9 hours when you go to work. You come home and, yeah, somebody's going to find it. So enough said about that. Those are some of the tricks of the trades. Make sure you got things that you can, use. Don't feel bad about sometimes having to replace. Also, make sure you have things covered too. I can't tell you how many times I've glued a gnome to the table, come back later, and he's still on the table. The reason I can't tell you is because I've lost track of count of how many times I've done that. So I'm just mixing up my Mod Podge. Like I said, you can't, just like to get a little bit dirty here. You can also wear plastic gloves. Yes, you are getting glue. Plastic gloves are great to have on. I work actually basically most of my days in the kitchen, so I have plastic gloves on all the time, so I don't mind getting my hands dirty now because I can get a chance to get the plastic gloves off. So all I'm doing now is just soaking my hat. Same thing if I'm going to do like with the burlap there. I'm just going to cut burlap strips. And again, a bit of advice, cut the strips ahead of time before you start playing in the glue. My wife says, yeah, you must have had a fun time, washing your hands off between cutting the strips. And I guess that would have been an option, but I just like to soak it in there real well. Wring it out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the cones. Now, you can use a foam cone. You can use one of the cardboard cones. Again, it just depends on how you want to play with it a little bit. I got smaller projects, and these actually are going to go on the top as a hat. The other one, you know, where I did this guy, he was the whole thing. So I used the whole, but here I want to use just a cone that I can use to help shape it and keep the shape. And this is like the 6.5, 7-inch styrofoam cones with about a 2.5 to 3-inch base down the bottom. And you can find those almost anywhere too. And I'm just going to put that over top there. And it may come up a little bit on there. It doesn't matter. The cone's not going to stay for this project. If I wanted to do something where I'm actually making the gnome, I could do that too. Use this as the gnome part, and then use this just up at the top here as the hat. For those of you who are actually putting legs on, you know, like you put the dowel rods through, this would be a great way. You've already have this. You can make that as your hat up here, add the beard. So there's so many different options with this here. What I look to do is just put some curl into it, give it some twist. Just giving it some character. Now, here's the trick too, because obviously this is not just gonna stay. I mean, you could do something like that. What I have found, and literally found on my wife's table, pins. Simple pins, and I recommend the ones with the balls on top of them. They're easier to work with, easier to pull out later on. But you're going to have to sort of strategically stick them in there to hold the curl in place. And this is the trick to it, because that's where people say, okay, well, it comes apart when I try to do this around. So you stick the pin in there, start shaping it how you want to do it. I mean, if you want to have curl coming around like that, you want to have something like Finn's hat where it's just twisted around. This is the main trick to it, putting the pins in. The other trick is you're going to have to leave it set for a while. This is probably going to take roughly about 1.5 to 2 days to dry. So make sure you got other projects that you're working on or things that you want to do. Be careful, those pins sticking out there. I can curl it around. I can actually curl it to itself. And that's what I like about the foam and the cardboard too, that I can stick it to itself there. I can take the bottom part, wrap it a little bit, give it some character, stick a pin in it. So I've got it soaking wet. It's going to dry. And so when it dries, it's going to dry in that position. And what I want to do though is I want to make sure I'm checking it every couple hours just to make sure, number one, I'm putting it down because I'm going to go off and do other things. It's going to dry, but it's going to, all this liquid is going to actually flow down to the bottom. Now see, I don't mind adding a little bit more once I get it into place here, once I get how I want it. But yes, the glue is going to run down. So I want to check it every now and then just to make sure I'm not gluing it to my wax paper or parchment paper, so I can move it around. And I would recommend, yeah, either drizzling it over or getting a paintbrush if you don't want to really get your hands all messy in it. Finn's hat, I actually did that over several days because it took about 4 or 5 just setting it perfectly, you know, because I wanted it to go at a certain angle. So I got it to the first part, and it did. The first time it set pretty good. And then I just set more of this in there. I wanted to get more in between there. So I just worked a little bit in there. Didn't have to soak it all down. The coat, as I said, is really hard, nice stiffness to it. Only had to do one application of that. The beard, one application. So that was just painted on there. But again, it's all wet. So I had to make sure every couple hours I came in and just checked on it, moved it. Same thing with this guy here. Everything runs down. So the base there had a lot more in it. Made sure I had boxes set aside, and after about 6 hours, I actually flipped him over. So the bottoms, so everything just ran down and helped glue inside. I still got to do a little bit more wrapping on there too. But that gives you a little idea that I've had people come back and say, you know, well, wait a minute, the thing glued to the table. Make sure you keep an eye on it. As I said, I soak it down now pretty good. You can even dip it if you want. I mean, if you got something small that you're using, do that. Now, also make sure that if you've already got your body made and all that, this is going to stiffen it, harden it up there. So you're going to make sure you're going to keep it the same size that you're going to be able to put it on your gnome. That's why I put a twist in here. I'll probably use a smaller gnome than that to put this on. These were designed for smaller also. Now, also what I want to do at about halfway through too, so, you know, about 5-6 hours later, I want to come back and make sure I can still pull that off of here. And then, you know, take the pins out a little bit, whatever you might have poked into there, loosen them up a little bit, take it off, because if you're not using the cone, you want to be able to make sure this comes off the cone and reuse it. I can reuse these a number of times, or if I am using it as a project, I want to bring this all the way down and have it along the line there so I can put my feet in the bottom there. So we're not going to do a time-lapse thing here right now. This is going to actually take, like I said, roughly about a day and a half to dry. Just wanted to give you that idea, and this will, like I said, stiffen up. This is a lot like the paper mache hats that I had made, and I'm going to see if I'm making a lot more of those too. I enjoy those type of things. If you go back to some of my other videos where you see the paper mache put into that. The Mod Podge now, you have plenty here to make for several hats. So I can just work on, you know, several at a time. That makes it easier too, that, you know, they're going to take some time to dry. I like to have 2 or 3 things going at the same time. So what I'm going to do is work on a couple more hats, do a couple different twists, have some fun with them. I love, like I said, I'm constantly saying I love how you guys are making different things, getting the basics, working on that, and then building from there. There's so many beautiful things coming out right now. We have so many things for the holiday and going into the new year. Just great start of a new year that we want to do, just have some fun things to do. And this is just another idea to add to it. So if I can help you in any way, please just let me know. I appreciate all your guys' sentiments and all the great things that you guys are doing. And I love to see the way that you take different things, build upon it, grow, and just are able to make your own gnomes just look so more beautiful. And I just love to see everything you guys are doing in the gnome groups. So thank you, and I hope you guys have a great day.